Buenos dias! Sa video na ito, pag-uusapan natin ang lesson 4 ng pre-calculus, which is the ellipse. So we will be covering the definition, the equation, the graph, and the applications of ellipse. So let's start. Now, I believe that you encountered this shape already as early as kindergarten, and you've known this as the oval or the oblong. But in senior high school, we call it the ellipse. So let's define ano bang ibig sabihin kapag sinabi mong ellipse. So an ellipse is the set of all points in a plane such that the sum of the distances from the fixed points called the foci is constant. So ibig sabihin, given this shape, meron dalawang points dyan na fixed, the foci. So let's say f sub 1 and f sub 2. And let's say we have the point p sub 1. And if we measure that point, the distance from that point to the foci, and we add the distances, that will, let's say, result to 2a. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, if we have another point also, p sub 2, dapat 2a rin ang kanya sum of the distances. So, if we measure papuntang f sub 1 at f sub 2, pag i-add natin yung distances na yun, 2a din ang sum of the distances. So, kapag ganun po yung case, yung shape na ito ay tinatawag nating ellipse. Okay, so let's talk about the parts of the ellipse. First, the center. The center given by the coordinates h and k is the midpoint of the line segment between the foci, the vertices, and the covertices. So, ang center, of course, center, so sa gitna po siya. So, yung nagbibigay ng coordinates na h and k, which we will be using pagdating sa equation ng ellipse later on. Katulad sa circle at sa parabola. Okay. So, the vertices, v sub 1 and v sub 2, are always on the major axis. Okay. So yung major axis, yan yung line na nagko-connect ng v sub 1 papunta sa v sub 2. At yung measurement niyan ay 2a, represented by 2a. Yan. So yung major axis, yung axis also na nagsasabi kung ang inyong ellipse ba ay horizontal o vertical. So for example, in this case, ang inyong major axis ay horizontal. Ibig sabihin, horizontal ang ellipse na ito. Okay. Next, the covertices represented by W1, W sub 1 and W sub 2 are always on the minor axis. Endpoints siya ng minor axis. Okay? Some books or some modules, they prefer to use CV instead of W. But they just mean the same. Okay? Arbitrary lang naman ang mga letters. Okay. The minor axis, so ito yung line na nagko-connect ng covertices natin. Yan. Yan. Ang measurement niyan ay 2b. Okay, so perpendicular siya always sa inyong major axis. So yung major axis, eto, kaya siya major kasi always siya, mas mahaba siya kaysa sa minor axis. Of course, it makes sense to call them major and minor axis. The major axis, again, here is always longer than the minor axis as what I have mentioned. And also as what I have mentioned earlier, it also determines whether the ellipse is horizontal or vertical. Yeah. So some other measurements we need from the center to the vertex, any of the vertices. So if we measure, pag mag-count tayo from C to V, that's A, represented by A. B represents the distance from the center to the covertex, so from C to W. And then C represents the distance from the center to the focus, which is C to F. Yeah. So let's talk about the standard form of equation of an ellipse. To obtain the simplest equation for an ellipse, we place the foci on the x-axis at f sub 1 negative c and 0 and f sub 2 c and 0 so that the center is at the origin. Yan. So ganito. Okay. So for later convenience, we let the sum of the distances from a point P. So pag i-measure natin P papuntang f sub 1 at plus P papuntang f sub 2, pag i-add natin, let us represent that as 2a for convenience purposes. So here, then the distance, as what I have mentioned kanina, is 2a. Okay. So dahil distance ang pinag-uusapan, pwede tayong gumamit ng distance formula. So pag ginamit natin ang distance formula from P to f sub 1 plus P to f sub 2 and equate that to 2a, we have this one. Okay. Yan. Or we can have it as this one. So we just applied APE or addition property of equality by, we subtracted the square root of the quantity x plus c squared plus y squared on both sides. Or if you're familiar with transpose, kasi mas naiintindihan nyo yun, so that is it. Okay. Okay. Next naman, ang gagawin natin dito is we will square each side and then we will expand para matanggal natin yung mga radical signs dito. So we will square, ito yung magiging result niya after we expand. Okay. So notice here, meron mga terms na meron on both sides of the equation, like x squared, so we can cancel. Then we have c squared, then we have y squared. So yung matitira na lamang ay 4a, the square root of the quantity x plus c squared plus y squared is equal to 4a squared plus 4c squared. Okay. So ito, negative 4a, and the expression inside the radical sign, we just applied APE para nasa left side na siya ng equation. And yung 4a squared, we bring it down lang. And then sa nakuha yung 4c squared, we have your negative 2c. Pag i-transpose or technically apply APE by adding 2cx, mag-combine niya siya dito sa another 2cx. So magiging 4cx. So from that, we continue. Dito tayo nag-stop sa previous slide. Okay? So we divide each side by 4 and square again. Kasi pareho silang merong mga coefficients na 4 para mas simple yung ating equation. So ito yung matitira pag tinanggal or dinivide na natin by 4 ang lahat ng terms. Next, if we square, so a squared tapos yung radical square natin. And so with this one, para matanggal natin yung radical sign again, so we square that, ito yung magiging result. Okay. Typo error, this should be x plus c. Okay, x plus c. Sorry for that. So let me correct that muna. Let me edit that. Okay, so ayan po, na-correct ko na yung kaninang typo error. So if we square this previous equation sa taas, if we square all the terms, it will result to the next equation here sa baba. So square the a, and then if we square this one, we can also already remove the radical sign, and we square this binomial here. Okay, so next, if we expand this one, this will result to a squared x squared plus 2a squared cx plus a squared c squared plus a squared y squared, which is equal to a raised to 4 plus 2a squared cx plus c squared x squared. Notice on the both sides of the equation, meron tayong 2a squared cx. So we can cancel. And ang matitira na lamang ay a squared x squared plus a squared c squared and the rest. Okay? Yeah. So after that, what we will be doing here is we apply APE so that itong a squared c squared nasa kabila, negative a squared c squared na siya. Okay, we also apply APE for c squared x squared, magiging negative c squared x squared. Okay, so after that, notice na parehong may x squared ang a squared x squared at c squared x squared. So we factor out x squared here. Dito naman, we factor out a squared. So it will result to this one. Yan. Okay, so from that, pagpatuloy tayo. Since the sum of the distances from P to the foci must be larger than the distance between the foci, then 2A must be greater than 2C. Or A must be greater than C. Thus, dahil mas malaki ang A sa C, ibig sabihin ng A squared minus C squared ay positive, greater than 0. Dahil positive ang A squared minus C squared, pwede na natin i-divide lahat ng terms by A squared times A squared minus C squared. Okay? So if we divide, ito yung magiging result. If we cancel the common terms, yan, cancel. Cancel, that will result to 1. Okay, when we cancel, that doesn't make it 0, it just becomes 1. So yung magiging simplified form ay x squared over a squared plus y squared over a squared minus c squared is equal to 1. So from that, we continue. For convenience, we let b squared be equal to a squared minus c squared. Okay? So we want the simple lang ating standard form, di ba? Na walang masyadong maraming notations. Okay? Na ito, complicated a squared minus c squared. So gawin na lang natin siyang b squared kung saan yung b ay greater than 0. Okay. So since b squared is less than a squared, it follows that b is less than a. Kasi di ba, yung kalahati ng major axis ay mas mahaba sa kalahati ng minor axis. So it makes sense here. So from that, we make this one b squared. So it will result to this one. At because of this condition, b is less than a, or a is greater than b kapag ibaliktad mo siya. So ito yung ating standard form of equation wherein a is greater than b. Yeah. So ganyan po natin na-derive yung ating equation na ito. Using distance formula and algebraic manipulations, we were able to arrive with our standard form of equation for an ellipse. Now let's talk about the ellipse whose center is at the origin. Let's have this one. Okay, so notice here sa ating illustration, yung major axis natin ay horizontal. So ibig sabihin, ang ellipse na ito ay horizontal. Yung center natin ay nasa origin. Okay. Kapag ganun po yung case, ito yung standard equation ng ating ellipse. Kapag ang center natin ay nasa origin at horizontal ang major axis. Yeah. Where your A is greater than B and greater than 0. And you can compute for the value of C using this expression, the square root of the quantity A squared minus B squared. And then, of course, your center is at the origin. And you can use the following formulas para mahanap yung vertices, co-vertices, at foci para mag-graph nyo ng maayos yung inyong ellipse. Okay. So, gagamitin natin to siya sa mga examples natin mamaya. Then, kapag ganito naman ang itsura ng ellipse, ang center ay nasa origin, notice na yung major axis ay vertical. So, ibig sabihin, vertical din yung ellipse. So, ito yung kanyang formula. Notice, magkaiba, b squared ang nauuna, and a squared yung next na denominator. So, these same cases for a and b and c. Center is at 0, 0. Ito naman yung formulas na gagamitin para mahanap yung vertices, co-vertices, at yung foci. Yeah. So, ito yung ating mga standard equation of the ellipse whose center is at the origin. So, here on the left would be for the horizontal ellipse, and on the right, we have for the vertical ellipse. Okay? So, paano mo malalaman kung vertical o horizontal ang inyong given standard equation, center at origin? So, it's easy. You just have to check the first denominator. A squared is always greater than B squared. Mas malaki yung A squared kaysa sa B squared. So, kapag yung naunang denominator or yung denominator sa baba ng X squared ay mas malaki kaysa sa isa, ibig sabihin horizontal yon. Sa vertical naman, ang denominator sa baba ng x ay mas maliit kaysa sa denominator sa baba ng y squared. Yan. So, ganyan po natin malalaman. So, let's have some examples here. So, example number 1, we have x squared over 25 plus y squared over 16 equals 1. So, first, alamin natin kung anong klaseng ellipse siya, horizontal ba o vertical. So, again, i-check natin yung denominator. Yung malaking denominator na 25 ay nasa baba ng x squared. Ibig sabihin, yan ay isang horizontal ellipse. So dahil horizontal ellipse siya, ito yung mga gagamitin nating mga formulas mamaya sa pag-hanap ng vertices, co-vertices, at foci. Yan. So obviously, this is 25. Yan yung mas malaki. Yan yung a squared. Okay. So 25. So a is 5. 16 is our b squared, which means b is 4. Then we apply this formula for c para mahanap natin ng c. So 25 minus 16, the square root of that one, and the final answer is 3. Okay, so c is 3. Dahil meron ka ng values ng a, b, and c, makahanap mo na ang mga points na ito. So of course, this topic na ito ay center at the origin. So kapag x squared at y squared lamang yung nasa taas, ibig sabihin nun yung center mo nasa origin. So pwede mo nang gamitin ito, hanapin ang vertices. Okay, positive, negative a mo is 5. So negative 5 and positive 5. And then, co-vertices, gamitin ng formula, magiging 0 and negative 4 kasi your b is 4. 0 and 4 because your b is 4. Gamit ang formula na to. And the same formula, similar formula for foci. So C is 3. So positive and negative 3 and 0. Yan. So kapag nahanap mo na yung center, vertices, co-vertices at foci, pwede mo na i-graph ang inyong ellipse sa inyong Cartesian plane. So prepare a Cartesian plane. Ayan. So ang una mong gagawin ay you plot the center. Center at 0, 0. Yan. So this is where your center would be, 0, 0 at the origin. Make sure to label. Importante may label yung mga points at ang other parts of your graph para malinaw kung ano yung pinapertain mo. Okay? Next, we have the vertices at negative 5 and 0. So negative 5 and 0 dito. So that's V sub 1. 5 and 0 dito. That is your V sub 2. Co-vertices at 0 and negative 4. 0 and negative 4. So that is your co-vertex 1, W sub 1. And 0 and 4 sa taas naman, W2 or co-vertex 2. Then your foci at negative 3 and 0 dito. So negative 3, 0, F sub 1. And ito naman, F sub 2. So dahil kompleto na iyong 7 points, pwede mo nang i-draw ang iyong ellipse. Paano mo i-draw ang ellipse? Just make an oval shape passing through the vertices and the co-vertices. Nasa loob ang inyong foci. So ganyan tayo mag-graph ng isang ellipse given the standard equation whose center is at the origin. Okay, next example. Example number 2. X squared over 4 plus y squared over 9 equals 1. Ang unang gagawin, i-check ano yung mas malaking denominator? Yes, that is 9. So dahil ang 9 ay nasa baba ng y squared, ibig sabihin vertical yung iyong ellipse. At ito yung mga gagamitin mong formulas. Okay. So dahil 9 ang mas malaki, yan yung a squared, which means a is 3. Yung mas maliit na denominator, that is 4, which means that is b squared, which means b is 2. And to find c, you can just use this formula. That is approximately 2.24. So gagamit tayo ng 2 decimal places for this one. Kasi graphing naman ang gagawin natin dito. Okay. So the center is at the origin 0, 0 kasi x squared at y squared lang yung mga numerators. And then the vertices at 0 and negative 3 and 0 and positive 3 kasi dito sa formula 0 plus minus a. Yan, di ba? A is 3. And then co-vertices, negative 2, 0, 2, 0 kasi ito yung formula natin. Positive, negative b. So positive, negative 2 and 0. And for the foci, 0, positive, negative c, which is 2.24. So yan ang ating foci. So dahil meron na tayong 7 points dito for the ellipse, pwede na nating i-plot sa isang Cartesian plane. So first, again, ipa-plot natin yung center. Yan, at the origin. Vertex 1, 0 and negative 3. Dito. Then vertex 2, 0 and positive 3. And the rest of the points, we plot them. Yan, co-vertex 1, negative 2, 0. And co-vertex 2, 2 and 0. Then yung foci, so we just estimate kasi decimal, di ba? So negative 2.24. So that is why I prefer, mas convenient pala, gamitin ang decimal dito sa graphing. Because you don't know where square root of 5 is. Mas mahirap siyang intindihin kung saan. Mas madaling intindihin yung decimal equivalent niya. Yan. Then f sub 2, dahil kompleto na iyong 7 points, pwede mo na i-draw or sketch ang ellipse na dumadaan sa iyong vertices at co-vertices. So that is how you graph an ellipse, a vertical ellipse, given the standard equation, whose center is at the origin. Okay. So not naman all the time, yung center mo nasa origin lang, di ba? So katulad kay circle, hindi naman lahat ng center nasa origin. So we have your center at HK. So H and K would represent any number. Okay. So let's say we have this one. This is of course, a horizontal ellipse kasi horizontal ang major axis. Yeah. So, ang center niya ay nasa HK, hindi 0, 0. So, kapag ganun, ito yung gagamitin nating equation. So, x minus h squared, y minus k squared. If you notice, similar lang siya sa circle at sa parabola. Yung partner ni x, always si h. Yung si y at I si k. Yan. Where a is greater than b is greater than 0. C, you can use the same formula. And you can use these formulas in finding the center, the vertices, the co-vertices, and the foci. Okay, so yan yung horizontal. Ito naman, yung vertical. Vertical siya kasi elongated siya, pahaba siya pataas at pababa. So yan, vertically elongated. So yan ang ellipse natin. So here, that's vertical kasi vertical ang ating major axis. Ito yung magiging formula niya. Okay, so dahil vertical, mas nauuna yung mas maliit na denominator kaysa sa mas malaking denominator na a squared. So the same conditions for A, B, and C. Then for the formulas for the center, vertices, co-vertices, and the foci, you can use the following. Okay, so if yan, side by side yung ating formulas. Now, how will you determine kung horizontal or vertical yung ellipse given yung equation whose center is not at the origin? The same lang po, yung mas malaking denominator ay nauuna, then horizontal or nasa baba ng x. Ang malaking denominator na second or nasa baba ng y ay vertical. So, magbibigay ako ng some examples for this one. So, let's have example number 3. Okay, so we have x minus 4 squared over 49 plus y minus 5 squared over 36 is equal to 1. So, first things first, identify anong klaseng ellipse siya. So, 49 na mas malaking denominator at nasa baba siya ng x, ibig sabihin niya ng isang horizontal ellipse at ito yung mga gagamitin mong formulas. Yan. So, mas malaki ang 49 sa 36, so siya yung a squared, which is 7, which gives you a, which is equal to 7. 36 will be your b squared, which will give you b as 6. And you can use this formula to find c, which is approximately 3.61. So, yung center, katulad lang sa pagkuha ng center, sa circle at sa parabola. So your center will be at 4 and 5. So this is H, this is K. So using these formulas of vertices, co-vertices at sa foci, you will have this one. -3 and 5 and 11 and 5 yung inyong vertices. Co-vertices at 4 and -1 and 4 and 11. Foci at 0.39 and 5 and 7.61 and 5. Yeah. Okay. So, kung saan nakuha yung vertices, co-vertices at foci, ginamit natin yung formulas na ito. Okay. So, dahil kompleto ng 7 points, again, pwede na natin i-plot. So, we have the Cartesian plane. Ang unang ipa-plot natin ay yung center at 4 and 5. So, dito sa Cartesian plane na nakikita nyo, yung interval niyan ay by 1. So, bawat line dyan ay 1. Okay. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yan. And plot the vertices. Of course, you already know how to plot points. So, ito yung vertices ninyo. Yan. Then, plot the co-vertices. W1, W sub 2. Then, the foci, F sub 1, and F sub 2. Dahil kumpleto ng 7 points, pwede mo nang i-draw ang iyong ellipse. Connect the co-vertices and the vertices using a smooth curve. Yeah. So, that is how you graph a horizontal ellipse whose center is at HK. Example number 4, x plus 3 squared over 64 plus the quantity y minus 2 squared over 100 is equal to 1. So yung mas malaking denominator dito ay 100 at nasa baba siya ng y, ibig sabihin ito ay isang vertical ellipse. Well, vertical, ito yung gagamitin natin ng mga formulas. Yan. 100 is our a squared, which gives us a to the 10. 64 is our b squared, which gives us b to the 8. And using this formula, c will be equal to 6. Center at h and k. So h is -3, k is +2. So -3 and +2. Using these formulas here, you can get the vertices, -3 and -8, -3 and 12. Co-vertices, -11 and 2, and 5 and 2. And foci at -3 and -4, and -3 and 8. Yan. So, paano nakuha again yung vertices, co-vertices, and foci? Ginamit natin yung formulas na ito. Okay. Nakumpleto ng ating 7 points. Pwede na nating i-plot ang mga points na ito. So, the same Cartesian plane, interval by 1, ang ginagamit kong Cartesian plane dito. So, center at -3 and 2. I-plot po yan siya sa negative 3 and 2. And do not forget to label your points. Then the vertices, plot the vertices, negative 3 and negative 8 sa baba. Yan. And negative 3 and negative 12 sa taas. Yan ang iyong vertices. Co-vertices naman, negative 11 and 2. So dito banda. Yan. And 5 and 2. Dito banda. Yan. Foci at negative 3 and negative 4 sa baba. There. And negative 3 and 8 somewhere here. There. So, kompleto na rin ang 7 points. Pwede mo nang i-draw yung ellipse. So, connect the vertices to the co-vertices using a smooth, closed curve. The shape of an ellipse. So, that is how you graph an ellipse whose center is at the point HK. Vertical ellipse. Okay. Let's move forward. Now, let's talk about the general form of equation of an ellipse. The standard form, you can manipulate it or convert it mathematically to achieve the general form of equation, which is this one. Ax squared plus cy squared plus dx plus ey plus f equals 0. The general form of equation for an ellipse makes it easier to identify from the other conic sections because both x and y are squared, but a is not equal to c, and a and c are positive. Okay? So as mentioned in lesson 1, yung A at yung C sa isang ellipse ay magkaibang value at parehong positive. Yan. So that makes it an ellipse. So given the standard form, the general form of an ellipse, let's convert it to standard form. So first, kapag ganito, given sa atin ay 9x squared plus 4y squared plus 18x plus 16y equals 11, ang una natin gagawin ay group the terms according to variable. So group the x's and the y's. Yan. So move lang. 18x, move lang yung 4y squared. After that, we factor out 9 and 4. We factor out 9 from the x's and 4 from the y's. So it will result to this one. So 9. So 18 divided by 9 kasi factor out. So divide by 9, it's 2. Then factor out 4. 16 divided by 4 is 4. Next, what we will be doing is completing the square. So magdagdag tayo ng mga blanks. Parang ganito. Yan. And we will complete the square. When we complete the square, again, what we add here is 1/2 of the middle coefficient squared. So this is 2. Half of it is 1 squared 1. So magdadagdag din tayo sa kabila para fair. But this time, ang idadagdag natin sa kabila ay 9 times 1. Kasi we added 1 sa loob, pero may 9 sa labas. Okay. Next, we will be adding 4 here kasi 1/2 ni 4 is 2 squared 4. So, ang i-add natin dito ay 4 sa loob times yung 4 sa labas. So, mag-add tayo ng 4 times 4. Okay. Next step is to factor and to simplify. So, bring down 9. Copy the variable. The sign, 1/2 of 2 is 1. Bring down 4. The variable is y. The sign is positive. 1/2 of 4 is 2 squared. Then simplify this one. That will result to 36. Okay? There. So magpatuloy tayo from that. From 9 times the quantity x plus 1 squared plus 4 times the quantity y plus 2 squared equals 36. Gagawin natin next is divide all terms by 36. Kasi di ba sa standard form, yung sa right side is 1. So para maging 1 yung 36, divide mo by 36. So divide mo all of the terms. And then, we simplify. Yan. So 9/36 is just 1/4. Or 36 divided by 9, yung answer ilalagay sa baba, 4. Dito naman, 36 divided by 4, yung answer ilalagay sa baba, 9. So 36/36 is just 1. Okay. So ito yung result. Yan. So yan ang ating standard form of equation of 9x squared plus 4y squared plus 18x plus 16y equals 11. From that, we can graph that one already. Mas madali nang i-graph kasi standard form na. So 9 yung mas malaking denominator, ibig sabihin vertical yung ellipse mo, at ito yung gagamitin mong mga formulas. Okay. So here, A is 3 kasi 9 ang A squared. B squared is 4, so it gives you 2. Using the formula, C will give you approximately 2.24. Then the center, HK, negative 1 and negative 2. Kasi positive 1 dito, so pag kunin negative 1, positive 2 pag kunin negative 2. And apply these formulas here for HK plus minus A for the vertices, and you will have the vertices at negative 1 and negative 5, and negative 1 and 1. The covertices will be at negative 3 and negative 2, and 1 and negative 2. And your foci would be at negative 1 and 4, negative 4.24, and negative 1 and 0.24. Yeah, etong mga points na kailangan natin for graphing, we can prepare the Cartesian plane. Yan. First, plot the center, negative 1, negative 2. Then the vertices, negative 1 and negative 5. Yan. There. And then negative 1 and 1. There. And then covertex at negative 3 and negative 2. It's here. And 1 and negative 2, it's here pala. Okay. Foci at negative 1 and 4, negative 4.24, somewhere here. And another 1, which is somewhere here. Yan. Kumpleto ng 7 points, pwede mo nang i-draw ang iyong ellipse. So that is how you graph an ellipse given the general form. Kailangan i-convert mo muna siya into standard form bago mo siya i-graph. Okay. So this time, we will be finding the equation given some information about the ellipse. For instance, find the standard form of equation for an ellipse with center at 3 and 2, passing through the points 8, 2, negative 2 and 2, 3 and negative 5, and 3 and 9. So when we try to find the equation of an ellipse, the first thing that we should do is to illustrate the given. So here we have the given. So 3 and 2. 8, which is the center, 8 and 2, negative 2 and 2, 3 and negative 5, 3 and 9. Yan. Yan yung ellipse. Kasi di ba dumadaan yung ellipse dyan? So obviously, ganyan yung magiging itsura ng ellipse. Okay. Next, we identify A, B, H, and T. Okay. Para sa standard equation, di ba? So ito, ang length nito from this point to this point ay 14. Well, from this point to this point is 10. Dahil itong orange line ay mas mahaba dito sa blue line, yung orange line yung tinatawag nating major axis. Ang length niya ay 2A. Habang yung blue naman ay yung minor axis. Yung length ay 2B. So itong center nagbibigay ng H and K. Yan. So dahil H mo is 3, K mo is 2. Yung A, 7, kasi di ba 14 is 2A, divided by 2, 7. And so with this one, divided by 2, B is 5. So meron ka ng A, B, H, K. So ngayon, identify mo kung horizontal or vertical. Obviously, kasi yung major axis mo ay vertical, ang ellipse mo ay vertical. Dahil vertical yan, center at HK, ito yung gagamitin mong formula. So yan, alamin mong formula na gagamitin. Pagkatapos, i-substitute mo na yung H, K, A, and B. And we have this one. Simplify that one. And this is your standard equation of your ellipse with the following details given. So that is how we find the equation of an ellipse. And finally, para magamit natin kung anong natutunan natin, we apply it in real-life situations. The application of ellipse. So sa application of ellipse, katulad or similar sa ating application sa circle, we will be dealing with tunnels. This time, it's semi-elliptical. So a semi-elliptical archway over a one-way road has a height of 10 feet and a width of 40 feet. Your track has a width of 10 feet and 9 feet. Will your track clear the opening of the archway? Makakadaan po ba ang inyong track na ganitong 10 feet by 9 feet? Sa isang tunnel na 10 feet ang height at may width na 40 feet. So yun ang tanong. So we will be able to solve that using what we have learned about the ellipse. So to understand our problem, it's good to illustrate the problem. So 10 feet ang taas ng tunnel or ng archway. Sorry, hindi pala siya tunnel, archway pala siya. Okay. And then yung width niya is 40 feet. Yan. So when we solve problems involving conic sections, it's good to place our center at the origin, no? So if this is our center at the origin, of course sa gitna dadaan yung track para mas makadaan siya. Okay? Then from this one, our major axis is horizontal. Horizontal ang ellipse natin eh. Tapos, ito yung A natin which is 20 from the center to the other side. Mas mahaba. Mas mahabang kalahati. Kalahati lang. Okay? 40 man siya, so divided by 2. Okay, your B is 10. Center, papuntang co-vertex, 10. And X is equal to 5. So using these values, gagamitin natin siya sa standard equation ng ellipse na horizontal, center at origin para ma-solve natin yung problem. So this is our formula for the standard equation of the ellipse whose center is at the origin. So we have X is 5, A is 20, B is 10. Substitute, and you'll have this one. Simplify, 5 squared is 25. This is 400. This is 100. We have this one. So hanapin muna natin yung Y. Okay. Y squared over 100. We apply addition property of equality by adding negative 25 over 4. Or transpose, yeah. Okay, and then, well, from that, we multiply, nadoble siya, sorry. We'll multiply by 100 so that we can cancel this one. Y squared na lang maiiwan dito. We also multiply on the other side 100. So Y squared, we simplify this one is 93.75. And get the square root, it's approximately 9.68. Ibig sabihin, at this point sa track, sa end ng track at this point 5, yung taas ng tunnel mo ay 9.68. At yung track mo ay 9 feet lang. So, ibig sabihin, makakadaan talaga ang inyong track kasi mas mababa siya compared sa inyong archway. Yan. Hence, at the edge of the track, the tunnel is approximately 9.68. Sorry, it should be archway. It should not be tunnel. Okay? 9.68 feet high. Since the track is only 9 feet high, there is enough room for the track to clear the archway. Makakadaan ang inyong track sa archway. Congratulations. So that is how you solve a word problem involving ellipse. So that's it for this video on lesson 4, the ellipse. Thank you. Muchas gracias.